Hannah couldn't help but laugh at Tay's blunt assessment, even though it hurt her throat. "You're probably right," she admitted. "It is pretty dumb," Dr. Califf was nodding in agreement. "Many species would benefit from learning when to rest. But that's a lecture for another day." He turned to the cubs. "The important thing is, your teacher will make a full recovery. She just needs rest, fluids, and time. Your instinct to stay with her was actually quite good. Emotional support does help healing." "So we can stay?" Gina asked hopefully. "That's up to caretaker Hannah," Dr. Califf said. "Though I would suggest perhaps not all 12 of you at once. That might be overwhelming for someone who needs rest." Everyone looked at Hannah. She looked at the 12 worried faces surrounding her bed. These children who had organized guard shifts and built humidifiers and researched human biology and armed themselves with cafeteria spoons, all because they cared about her. "You can stay," she said softly, "but Dr. Califf is right. Maybe 2. Or 3 at a time. And you do need to keep up with your actual schoolwork. I don't want you falling behind because of me." "We've been doing homework during our guard shifts," Han assured her. "We're actually ahead in several subjects." "Of course you are," Hannah said, smiling. Over the next few hours, the situation slowly returned to normal. The cubs reluctantly agreed to a modified schedule that allowed them to visit Hannah while still attending most of their classes. Ambassador Velen promised not to implement any quarantine procedures. Security Officer Arachin confiscated the sharpened spoons, but agreed to look the other way regarding the cafeteria trays. By afternoon, Hannah was feeling well enough to sit up properly and even do some light reading. Tay and Quan sat with her, working on their mathematics assignments while Hannah dozed between chapters. "Teacher?" Quan said suddenly. Hannah opened one eye. "When you're completely better, can we have a lesson about Earth diseases and human immune systems? I want to understand them better." "Me too," Tay added. "If we're going to work with more humans in the future, we should know what's normal and what's actually dangerous." Hannah smiled. "That's a great idea. We can do a whole unit on comparative biology across species. How different species get sick, how they heal, what's dangerous for some but not for others." "And you'll tell us the truth?" Tay asked. "Not the humans are indestructible stuff?" "I'll tell you the truth," Hannah promised. "Humans are tough, but we're not invincible. We get tired. We get hurt, we get sick. We're strong because we keep going anyway, not because nothing can stop us." Quan thought about this. "So being strong doesn't mean never being weak?" "Exactly," Hannah said. "Being strong means accepting when you're weak and asking for help. Like I should have done yesterday instead of trying to teach while barely able to stand." "You were pretty terrible yesterday," Tay agreed, then quickly added, "but we still love you." The simple statement made Hannah's eyes water again. "I love you too," she said. "All of you. You're the best students a teacher could ask for." That evening, as the station's artificial sun dimmed to simulate night, all 12 cubs gathered in Hannah's room one final time before bed. They had negotiated this with the Adults One group visit for story time. Just like they did every other night, they arranged themselves around her bed, some sitting on the floor, some on chairs, the smallest ones actually on the bed itself. Hannah picked up her datapad and began to read, but tonight she didn't read their usual adventure stories. Instead, she told them about Earth, about seasons changing and weather patterns, about how humans used to get sick much more often before modern medicine, about how communities would care for the sick, bringing them soup and medicine and sitting with them so they wouldn't be alone. "Just like you did for me," she finished. "What you all did these past 2 days is part of a very old human tradition. Taking care of each other when we're vulnerable. You understood that instinctively, even though you're not human. Maybe being family is more important than being the same species," Sora said thoughtfully. "Maybe it is," Hannah agreed, one by one. The cubs gave Hannah goodnight hugs and headed to their own rooms. Tay was the last to leave. He paused at the door, his sharpened spoon, which he had somehow recovered from security, tucked into his belt. "Teacher," he said, "if you get sick again, we're doing this again, just so you know." "I know," Hannah said. "Though maybe with fewer weapons next time?" "No promises," Tay said with a grin. Then he was gone. Hannah lay back in her bed, alone for the first time in 2 days. The room felt quiet without the constant presence of cubs. But it wasn't a lonely quiet. It was peaceful. She thought about what had happened. How her simple cold had terrified these children. How they had banded together to protect her. How they had shown more loyalty and determination than many adults she had known. What she didn't know was that word of the incident was already spreading beyond Station Prometheus 7. Ambassador Vellern had written his report as required for any unusual incident. He had described the cubs' protective behavior, their fierce loyalty, their willingness to stand against authority figures to defend their human teacher. He had noted how a simple misunderstanding about human biology had revealed something profound about interspecies relationships. The report made its way to the Galactic Council, and there it started a different kind of conversation. Representatives from different worlds began sharing their own stories about humans. Not stories about human strength or endurance or survival skills. Stories about human connection. The Quillrith delegate talked about human soldiers who refused to leave their wounded behind, even when it was tactically foolish. The Morphean representative shared accounts of human disaster relief workers who ran toward danger when everyone else ran away. The Tertian counselor mentioned human doctors who volunteered for plague zones. Knowing they might not return, a pattern emerged. Humans weren't just physically resilient. They were emotionally resilient too. And more than that, they made others resilient. They built communities. They inspired loyalty. They turned groups of frightened individuals into families. 12 orphan cubs, Vellern's report concluded, organized a military-style defense of their sick teacher. They learned medical information, created equipment, established guard rotations, and stood against adult authority figures. When asked why, they simply said, "She's our pack. This human didn't just survive among aliens. She created a pack mentality across 6 different species. That may be humanity's true strength." The report was added to the growing file on human behavior. Anthropologists and xenopsychologists would study it. Sociologists would write papers about it. Military strategists would note it as an example of human influence on allied forces, but Hannah knew none of this. She only knew that she had 12 cubs who loved her enough to sharpen spoons into weapons. And that was enough. 5 days later, Hannah was fully recovered. She returned to her regular teaching duties, much to the relief of the substitute teacher who had found the cubs completely uncooperative in her absence. On her first day back, she found a surprise waiting in the classroom. Each cub had drawn or created something for her. 12 get-well gifts, ranging from Mayna's precisely calculated chart of human immune system, responses to Kwan's crayon drawing of all of them standing together with the words, "Our pack," written in wobbly letters. "We made a decision while you were sick," Tay announced. "We want to learn more about being a real pack, a multi-species pack. We want to know how to take care of each other better. Because if this happens again to any of us, we'll be ready." "That's a wonderful idea," Hannah said. "We can start today if you want," and so they did. That afternoon's lesson wasn't about galactic trade routes or diplomatic history. It was about first aid for different species, about recognizing when someone needs help, about building support systems and communities. The cubs learned that Tertians needed 6 times more water than most species when sick, that Quillrith could die from certain earth plants. The Belarians needed darkness to heal, not light. That showing weakness wasn't failure, it was trust. And Hannah learned something too. She learned that her job wasn't just to teach these children facts and figures. It was to teach them how to be there for each other, how to build something bigger than themselves. She learned that she had become more than a teacher. She had become the center of a pack that crossed species, cultures, and worlds. That evening, as she did her nightly check of the dormitories, she found Tay's sharpened spoon mounted on the wall above his bed like a trophy. Next to it was a photo one of the security cameras had captured the moment when all 12 cubs had stood together in the corridor, defending her door. They looked ridiculous in that photo, with their cafeteria tray armor and improvised weapons. They looked like children playing pretend. But Hannah knew the truth. In that moment, they had been warriors, not fighting for territory or glory or duty, fighting for love, and that made them the most dangerous force in the galaxy. The alarm wasn't a station emergency. It was just the door chime, but someone had apparently turned up the volume to maximum. Hannah winced at the sound, her headache throbbing. Through the door, she could hear voices, adult voices, authoritative voices. "Open this door immediately," came the unmistakable sound of Ambassador Vellern. "I need to check on caretaker Hannah." "State your business," a young voice responded. It was Yoon, trying to sound official and probably failing. "I am the station's director," Vellern said, his patience clearly wearing thin. "I don't need to state my business to a student." "Now move aside. Teacher Hannah is resting," Nari's voice joined in. "No unnecessary visitors allowed." There was a pause. Then Vellern spoke again, his voice carefully controlled. "Is caretaker Hannah aware that you've taken it upon yourselves to guard her door?" "Yes," Yoon lied smoothly. "She requested it for her safety." Hannah closed her eyes and groaned. This was getting out of hand. She started to get up, but Gina gently pushed her back down. "You're too weak," Gina said. "Let us handle this." "I'm not weak," Hannah protested. "I'm just sick. There's a difference." "Same thing," Gina said firmly. Outside, the situation was escalating. More voices had joined the conversation. Hannah could hear other Academy staff members, a few confused parents who had come to visit their cubs, and what sounded like station security. "This is Security Officer Narration," a new voice announced. "I'm ordering you cubs to stand down and return to your designated areas." "We're in our designated area," Quan piped up. "We're visiting our teacher. There's no rule against that." "At 0900 hours on a school day?" Officer Narration challenged. "Shouldn't you be in class?" "Study hall," Han's voice answered. "We're having study hall, here, with Teacher Hannah supervising. From her bed, because she's sick." The logic was so convoluted that there was actually a moment of silence as the adults tried to process it. Hannah had heard enough. She pushed past Gina's protests and made it to the door. When she opened it, she found herself facing a wall of cubs. All 12 of them had somehow assembled in the corridor, forming a barrier between her room and what looked like half the station's administration. They wore their makeshift armor. They held their improvised weapons. They looked absolutely ridiculous and completely determined. "What is going on here?" Hannah demanded, then immediately regretted raising her voice. It triggered another coughing fit. Every cub turned around in alarm. Jun and Sora rushed to support her before she could fall. Tay was at her side instantly, with Water. Ambassador Vellern pushed through the crowd, his 4 eyes widening when he saw Hannah. "Caretaker Hannah, you look terrible." "Thanks," Hannah said weakly. "I needed that boost to my confidence. I mean, you look unwell," Vellern corrected himself. "How long have you been in this condition?" "Just since yesterday morning," Hannah said. "It's really not a whole day?" Vellern's voice rose in alarm. "And you didn't report to medical?" "I didn't want to bother anyone with a simple cold." "A cold?" Vellern repeated the word like it was foreign. "What is a cold?" Before Hannah could answer, Tay stepped forward. "It's what happens before humans die," he said seriously. "We've been researching. Only 3 humans in the last century have reported illness. All 3 were quarantined. Teacher Hannah is the 4th case, which means this might be spreading. We can't let you take her away." "Take her away?" Vellern looked baffled. "I'm not here to take her away. I'm here to check if she needs medical attention." "She needs her pack," Gina said, her spots flaring red with determination. "Sick people who are isolated don't recover. Everyone knows that. We're staying with her and nobody can make us leave." Vellern looked from the cubs to Hannah and back again. "I think there's been a serious misunderstanding here." "No misunderstanding," Yoon said. Her crystalline body was glowing bright with defensive energy. "We understand perfectly. You want to separate Teacher Hannah from her family." "We won't allow it? Your family?" Vellern's expression softened slightly. "Is that how you see her?" "She's our teacher," Quan said, his small voice clear in the sudden quiet. "She takes care of us. She remembers our birthdays. She learns our languages." She celebrates our holidays. Of course she's family. Something in Velen's face changed. He looked at Hannah for a long moment, then back at the cubs. I see, he said quietly. Well then, perhaps we should call for medical to come here instead. Would that be acceptable? The cubs looked at each other, communicating silently. Finally, Tay nodded. Only if we can stay with her. And only if they explain every treatment. And only if they promise not to use quarantine protocols. Those are reasonable terms, Velen agreed. I'll call Dr. Caliph now. 20 minutes later, Dr. Caliph arrived with his medical kit. The cubs had rearranged themselves into a formation that allowed him to enter but kept him surrounded. If he noticed the sharpened spoons pointed in his direction, he didn't comment. He approached Hannah's bed slowly, his 6 Tertian arms spread in a non-threatening gesture. Good morning, caretaker Hannah. I hear you're not feeling well. It's just a cold, Hannah said for what felt like the 100th time. Let me examine you to confirm, Doctor, Caliph said. He pulled out a scanner and ran it over Hannah's body. The cubs watched his every move, ready to intervene if needed. Han was recording everything on his datapad. Mena was monitoring all the doctor's equipment with her sensors. Sora was reading his emotions to make sure he meant no harm. After a few minutes, Dr. Caliph put down his scanner. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the room. He laughed. It wasn't a cruel laugh. It was genuine amusement, but to the cubs it was the worst possible response. How dare you, Gina whispered, her glow turning blood red. Our teacher is suffering and you're laughing? Dr. Caliph's laughter stopped abruptly when he saw 12 furious young faces glaring at him. My apologies, he said quickly. I wasn't laughing at your teacher's condition. I was laughing at the situation. You see, this is indeed what humans call a cold, a rhinovirus. It's not terminal, it's not even serious. But humans don't get sick, Yun protested. Where did you hear that? Dr. Caliph asked gently. Everyone says it, Tay said. It's in all the databases. Humans are the endurance species. They don't get sick. Dr. Caliph sighed and sat down on the edge of Hannah's bed. He looked at each cub in turn. I think we need to have a talk about what being an endurance species actually means. He pulled up a holographic display from his medical kit. It showed a human body, transparent so they could see inside. Humans are remarkably resilient, yes. They can survive injuries and toxins that would kill most species. Their bodies can adapt to extreme conditions. But they're not immune to illness? The display changed, zooming in on tiny organisms. Earth, the human homeworld, has thousands upon thousands of viruses and bacteria. These organisms evolved specifically to infect humans. A human's immune system is constantly fighting these invaders. Most of the time, the immune system wins quickly, and the human never even knows they were attacked. But sometimes, Dr. Caliph continued, one of these organisms gets past the defenses. It multiplies inside the body. The immune system fights back, but the battle takes time. During that time, the human experiences symptoms. Fever, coughing, sneezing, fatigue. These are signs that the body is fighting, not signs that it's losing. So, Teacher Hannah is fighting? Quan asked hopefully. Yes, and winning, Dr. Caliph confirmed. In a few days, her immune system will completely destroy the virus. She'll be back to normal. But the database said only 3 humans got sick in the last century, Han pointed out. That's because most humans in space don't get sick, Hannah explained, her voice still rough but clearer now. Before we leave Earth, we get vaccinated against pretty much everything. We're screened constantly. We're careful. And when we do feel a little sick, we usually just work through it. You work through being sick? Mina asked, shocked. It's a human thing, Hannah admitted. We don't like showing weakness. It's probably not healthy, but it's cultural. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, Tay said bluntly. Hannah drifted in and out of feverish sleep. Her dreams were strange and confused, mixing memories of Earth with images of the station. In one dream, she was teaching a class, but all her students were sneezing in perfect harmony. In another, she was running through endless corridors. Looking for something she couldn't remember, she woke up suddenly, her heart pounding. The room was dark. How long had she been asleep? She reached for her datapad to check the time. but her hand knocked over a water bottle instead, before she could reach down to pick it up. A small figure darted out from the shadows and grabbed it. Hannah's eyes adjusted to the darkness. She could make out a shape at the foot of her bed. Two shapes, actually. Hello? She croaked. Her throat still hurt, but not as much as before. Teacher Hannah, a familiar voice said. It was Tay. You're awake. Do you need water? Food? More blankets? Tay? Hannah pushed herself up on her elbows, confused. What are you doing here? What time is it? 2,300 hours, another voice answered. Jun. He was sitting cross-legged beside her bed, his hands resting on what looked like a sharpened spoon. You've been asleep for 6 hours. Hannah's brain struggled to process this information through the fog of her cold. You've been here for 6 hours? We've been taking shifts, Tay explained. He moved closer, and Hannah could see his silver fur was standing on end, making him look bigger. In his paws, he held his makeshift weapon. 2 of us at all times. We're guarding you? Guarding me? Hannah repeated. Then the situation started to click into place. Oh no, kids, you don't need to do that. I'm fine. I just have a cough, interrupted her. It turned into a long coughing fit that left her gasping for air. June immediately handed her water, holding the bottle steady while she drank. When she could breathe again, she looked at the 2 cubs. Even in the dim light, she could see the worry in their eyes. You're not fine, Tay said firmly. Humans don't get sick, teacher. Everyone knows that. So if you're sick, it must be really bad. Maybe terminal? Terminal? Hannah's eyes widened. No, I'm not dying. I just have a cold. It's a virus. Very common on Earth. I'll be better in a few days. Tay and June exchanged glances. They clearly didn't believe her. You're very brave, teacher, June signed. Tay translated. But you don't have to pretend with us. We know how serious this is. Hannah opened her mouth to argue, but another wave of exhaustion hit her. The medicine she had taken earlier was making her drowsy. We'll talk about this in the morning, she mumbled. You 2 need to go back to your rooms and sleep. We're not leaving, Tay said simply. Pack doesn't abandon pack. But we'll be quiet, June signed. You won't even know we're here. Just rest, teacher. Hannah wanted to protest more, but her eyes were already closing. The last thing she heard before sleep took her was Tay's soft voice saying, Don't worry, teacher. We've got you. When Hannah woke again, sunlight was streaming through her window. She felt slightly better, though her nose was still blocked and her head still ached. She sat up slowly and looked around. Tay and Jun were gone, but they had been replaced. Gina sat in a chair by the window, her bioluminescent spots glowing softly in blues and greens. Yoon was on the floor, her crystalline body refracting the morning light into rainbow patterns on the walls. Good morning, teacher, Gina said brightly. How are you feeling? Confused, Hannah admitted. Did you 2 sleep here all night? We took the morning shift, Yoon explained. Tay and June had the night shift. Mina and Han will take over at noon. Hannah's confusion grew. You have a schedule? Of course, Yoon said, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. We're very organized. Mina made a chart and everything. Hannah tried to stand up, but Gina was immediately at her side, offering support. Where are you going, teacher? The bathroom, Hannah said. And then I need to talk to all of you about this. You can't just camp out in my room. You have classes. You have... She stopped mid-sentence as she opened her bedroom door. Standing in the corridor outside were 4 more cubs. Nari, Kwan, Sora, and another one whose name Hannah's foggy brain couldn't quite remember. They all straightened up when they saw her, their makeshift weapons at the ready. Perimeter secure, teacher, Nari reported seriously. Perimeter? Hannah repeated weakly. We're protecting you from all angles, Kwan explained in his high-pitched voice. Inside team and outside team. Nothing gets through us. Hannah looked at the cafeteria trays they wore as armor, at the mop handles they carried like spears, at their small, determined faces. Her heart swelled with emotion, but she wasn't sure if she wanted to laugh or cry. Can I at least use the bathroom? she asked. We'll form an escort, Sora said immediately. In case you feel dizzy. And that's how Hannah found herself being escorted to her own bathroom by 4 armed alien cubs. They waited outside the door, standing guard like tiny soldiers. When she emerged, they escorted her back to bed. This is ridiculous, Hannah said, but she was smiling despite herself. I can walk 10 meters by myself. You stumbled twice, Gina pointed out. We counted. Hannah hadn't even noticed. She climbed back into bed, accepting that arguing was useless. At least for now, over the next hour, the morning shift brought her breakfast. Not station food, but items from each of their personal supplies. Quan's special sweetbread from his homeworld. Nari's protein cubes that supposedly promoted healing. Yoon's crystallized fruit that sparkled like gems. They had also brought other things. Mena appeared with a strange contraption made from spare parts. It's a humidifier, she explained proudly. I read that moist air helps humans breathe better when they have respiratory issues. This should increase the humidity in your room by 20%. The device hummed to life, releasing a fine mist into the air. Hannah had to admit, it did make breathing a little easier. Han came next, carrying a datapad filled with information. I've been researching human colds, he said, his 6 arms gesturing as he talked. You need vitamin C, plenty of fluids, rest and warm liquids. I've calculated the exact amounts you should consume every hour. That's very thorough, Hannah said. I also found 67 different home remedies from Earth cultures, Han continued. We can try all of them if needed. That won't be necessary, Hannah said quickly. Sora approached Hannah's bed shyly. I've been adjusting the room's emotional ambiance, she said, keeping it calm and peaceful. Does it help? Hannah realized that she did feel unusually calm, despite the chaos. Yes, Sora, it helps a lot. Throughout the morning, cubs rotated in and out. Each one had a task. Someone to monitor her temperature, someone to make sure she had water, someone to read to her because Tay had read that mental stimulation was important, someone to simply sit with her because, as Quan said, nobody should be alone when they're sick. Hannah watched them all with growing amazement. These children, from a dozen different worlds, speaking different languages, with different customs and beliefs, had come together with one purpose. To take care of her. Why? She finally asked Gina during a quiet moment. Why are you all doing this? Gina's spots glowed warm gold. Because you did it for us first, she said simply. Remember when I first arrived? I was so scared. I couldn't stop glowing, and the other cubs made fun of me. You stayed with me every night for a week until I learned to control it. That was my job, Hannah protested. No, Gina said firmly. Your job was to supervise us during class hours. You stayed on your own time? You cared on your own time, she looked directly at Hannah. You taught us that family isn't about species or planets. It's about showing up. So now we're showing up for you. Hannah felt tears prickling at her eyes. This time, they weren't from the cold. Before she could respond, alarms started blaring in the corridor outside. The common room had never been so quiet. 12 young aliens sat in a circle, their usual games and laughter forgotten. The room's cheerful blue walls and soft floor cushions seemed wrong now, too bright for the dark worry that filled the space. Tay paced in the center of the circle. His claws clicked against the floor with each step. We all saw it, he said. Teacher Hannah is sick. Really sick. But humans don't get sick, Yoon repeated. Her crystalline body was dim, barely reflecting any light. Everyone knows that. My parents told me. The teachers told me. It's in all the books? Maybe the books are wrong, Mina suggested. Her mechanical parts whirred softly as she processed the information. Or maybe this is something new. Something the books don't know about yet. Han's 6 arms moved frantically across his datapad, pulling up article after article. Look at this, he said, his voice tight with fear. Galactic Medical Database? Human illness reports in the last century. He paused, his eyes scanning the screen. 3 cases. Only 3 humans reported being sick in 100 years. What happened to them? Gina asked. Her glow had turned almost black now. Han swallowed hard. All three were put in quarantine. Immediate isolation protocols? The reports don't say what happened after that. Quarantine. The word hung in the air like a poisonous cloud. Every cub in that room knew what quarantine meant. They had all lost someone. Parents who never came back from missions. Siblings who got sick and were taken away. Friends who disappeared behind sealed doors. Quarantine meant being alone. And being alone meant dying. Quan started making a high-pitched whistling sound, the way Belarians cried. His tiny body shook. Teacher Hannah can't die. She can't. She's the only one who remembers my birthday. She's the only one who makes sure my food isn't too hot. She reads to me every night, Nari added quietly. She's the only one who knows I'm scared of the dark. She helped me fix my leg actuator when no one else could, Mina said. She stayed up for 32 hours to figure it out. One by one, the cubs shared their stories. Teacher Hannah, who learned to speak Krellin Sign Language just to talk with Jun. Teacher Hannah, who celebrated every festival from every homeworld. Teacher Hannah, who never ever forgot to say goodnight. Sora, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. I can feel emotions, remember? When I first came here, I was so scared, so sad. Every adult's emotions felt cold to me, distant, but not Teacher Hannah's. She paused, her voice breaking. Her emotions are warm, like sunlight. She actually cares about us. Really cares. Not because it's her job, because we're her family. Then we have to save her, Tay said firmly. He stopped pacing and faced the group. She took care of us. Now we take care of her, but how? Eun asked. We're just cubs. We don't know about human medicine. What if we make things worse? Then we learn, Gina said. Her glow was starting to brighten again, shifting from black to dark blue. We're smart. We can figure this out? Han was already typing furiously on his datapad. I'll research everything I can find about human biology. There has to be information somewhere. Good, Tay said. While Han researches, the rest of us need to make sure Teacher Hannah is safe. Safe from what? Mena asked, tilting her head. From being alone, Tay said simply. In my species, when someone in the pack is weak or injured, we never leave them alone. Predators can sense weakness. They attack when you're vulnerable. There are no predators on a space station, Mena pointed out logically. Tay's ears flattened against his head. Doesn't matter. It's the principle. Teacher Hannah is vulnerable right now. She needs protection. She needs to know her pack is there. He's right, Jun signed with his hands. Nari translated for those who couldn't understand. In Krellin culture, we believe that illness comes when the spirit feels abandoned. We guard the sick to show them they're not alone. It helps them heal. My people do something similar, Sora added. We call it the warmth circle. When someone is sick, the family gathers close. Their combined emotional warmth helps push away the cold darkness of illness. Tay nodded, gathering strength from their agreement. So we guard her. We take shifts. At least 2 of us at all times. No one gets near Teacher Hannah without going through us first. Wait, Yoon said slowly. Where exactly are we guarding her? Her quarters? The door's too exposed, Gina said, already thinking tactically. If we stay outside, anyone can order us to leave. But if we're inside, then we're just visiting our sick teacher, Tay finished with a sharp smile. Nothing wrong with that. But her door has a security lock, Quan pointed out. We can't just walk in. All eyes turned to Mena. She squirmed under their gaze. You want me to hack the station's security system? Can you? Tay asked. Mina's optical sensors brightened with the closest thing to a smile her mechanical face could make. I'll need 5 minutes and a really good excuse if we get caught. We'll say it's an emergency, Gina said. Which it is. This is life and death. Okay, Tay said, his alpha instincts fully engaged now. Here's the plan. Mina opens the door. Gina and I take the first shift. The rest of you rotate every 2 hours. Bring whatever supplies you think Teacher Hannah might need. Food, water, blankets, anything. What if she tells us to leave? Nari asked. Tay's expression softened. We explained that we're her pack. And packs don't abandon their own. Ever. What about our regular classes? Un asked. Won't the other teachers notice we're gone? Han looked up from his datapad. I'll create a schedule. We'll rotate shifts so some of us are always in class. That way it won't be obvious. And homework? Quan asked worriedly. We'll do it during our guard shifts, Mina said. Quiet study time. That way we stay on top of our work and watch over Teacher Hannah. The plan was coming together. Each cub felt the fear in their chest transform into something else. Something stronger. Purpose, determination, hope. One more thing, Tay said seriously. We might need to defend Teacher Hannah. If medical people try to take her away for quarantine, if anyone tries to separate her from her pack, we stand firm. How do we defend against adults? Quan asked, his voice small. Tay thought for a moment. Then his eyes lit up. We make weapons. Weapons? Several cubs echoed. Nothing dangerous, Tay clarified quickly. It just... things that show we're serious. Things that make us look more intimidating than we are. Within minutes, the cubs had scattered to various parts of the station. They returned with their treasures. Cafeteria spoons that Tay immediately started sharpening against the wall. Serving trays that could work as shields. A mop handle that broke into several good-sized sticks. Mina welded pieces together with her built-in tools. Yoon used her crystalline body to reflect light in dazzling, disorienting patterns. Gina practiced making her bioluminescent spots flash in aggressive warning colors. They were just children playing pretend. But they didn't know that. In their hearts, they were warriors preparing for battle. And their cause was the most noble one of all. They were going to save their family. Everyone ready? Tay asked, standing before his assembled pack. 12 young faces looked back at him, scared but determined. Ready, they answered as one. Then let's go protect our teacher. The alarm went off at 0600 hours, like it did every morning on Station Prometheus 7, but this morning was different. Hannah opened her eyes and immediately knew something was wrong. Her throat felt like she had swallowed broken glass. Her head pounded with a dull, heavy ache. When she tried to breathe through her nose, nothing happened. It was completely blocked. She groaned and rolled over, pulling the blanket over her head. 5 more minutes, she told herself. Just 5 more minutes. Those 5 minutes turned into 2 hours. In the Academy's common room, 12 young aliens sat waiting. They came in different shapes and sizes from different worlds across the galaxy, but they all had one thing in common. They were waiting for their teacher. Tay, a Volflight Quillrith cub with silver fur, kept looking at the door. His ears twitched with every sound in the corridor. She's never late, he said for the 3rd time. Maybe she forgot? Suggested Quan, the smallest of the group. He was a Balarian, barely reaching Tay's knee, with large eyes that blinked sideways. Teacher Hannah doesn't forget, Gina said firmly. She was a Morphean, and her skin glowed with soft blue light when she was worried. Right now, she was glowing very bright. Something must be wrong. Yoon, whose crystalline body reflected the room's light in rainbow patterns, pressed her face against the window. Should we call someone? And tell them what? Han asked. He was a Tertian with 6 arms, and he was using 4 of them to nervously tap on his datapad. That our teacher is 2 hours late? They'll just say she's busy. The door finally opened at 0800 hours. Every head turned. Every conversation stopped. Hannah walked in, but she didn't look like their teacher. Her face was red and covered in sweat. Her eyes were puffy and watery. She moved slowly, like each step took great effort. In one hand, she clutched a box of tissues. In the other, a water bottle. Good morning, everyone, she said. Her voice sounded rough and strange, like it was coming from underwater. Sorry, I'm late. Let's start with... She stopped mid-sentence and turned away. A massive sneeze erupted from her, so loud that several cubs jumped in surprise. Then another sneeze, then another. The cubs stared in shock. They had never seen their teacher do that before. They had never seen any human do that before. Excuse me, Hannah said, wiping her nose with a tissue. Now, where were we? Ah, yes, today. We're studying galactic trade routes and another fit of sneezing interrupted her. This time she had to sit down at her desk. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, but the breath turned into a cough. A deep, harsh cough that shook her whole body. Mina, a young Scythian with a partially mechanical body, raised her hand. Teacher Hana, are you functioning properly? I'm fine, Hannah insisted, though her voice cracked. Just a little under the weather. Nothing to worry about. But the cubs were worried. Very worried. Everyone in the galaxy knew about humans. They were the endurance species, the ones who never stopped. Humans could drink poison that would kill other species and just get a headache. They could survive in temperatures that would freeze or boil most aliens. They healed from wounds that would be fatal to others. They could run for hours without stopping, fight for days without sleeping, and work in conditions that would break anyone else. Humans didn't get sick, that was a fact. Everyone knew it. So if a human was showing weakness, if a human was struggling just to stand up, it had to be something terrible. Something catastrophic. Gina's glow turned from blue to deep purple, the color of fear. The morning lessons were a disaster. Hannah kept losing her train of thought. She would start explaining something, then stop to sneeze or cough. She moved slowly between desks, holding onto furniture for support. Twice she had to sit down suddenly, her face going pale. When she reached for her water bottle, her hand shook so badly that water spilled onto her shirt. She didn't seem to notice that by midday things had gotten worse. Hannah's face was now completely red and sweat dripped from her forehead. She shivered even though the room was warm. Her breathing sounded rough and labored. Teacher, Nari said softly. She was a Phexian with two tails that usually swished playfully. Now they hung limp with worry. Maybe you should rest. I'm okay, Hannah said automatically. But as she stood up from her desk, her legs wobbled. She grabbed the desk to steady herself. That was enough for Tay. He stood up, his pack instincts taking over. Teacher Hana, you need to go to your quarters. Now. I can't just... Hana started to argue, but another coughing fit cut her off. This one was worse than the others. She bent over, unable to catch her breath, tears streaming from her eyes. When the coughing finally stopped, she looked at the 12 worried faces staring at her. For the first time that day, she seemed to really see them. She saw their fear, their concern, their confusion. All right, she said quietly. Maybe I do need to lie down for a bit. Can you all work on your reading assignments until I get back? The cubs nodded, but none of them moved to pick up their datapads. They watched as Hana slowly walked to the door, still clutching her tissue box. She paused at the doorway and turned back. I'll be fine, she said, trying to smile. I promise. I just need a little rest. Then she was gone, the door sliding shut behind her. For a long moment, nobody spoke. They just sat there, staring at the closed door, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Finally, Sora broke the silence. She was a Lumarian, a species known for feeling the emotions of others. Right now, her whole body was trembling. She's dying, she whispered. I felt it, she's really sick. Humans don't get sick, Jun said. He was a Krellin, and his species rarely spoke. When they did, it meant something important. If a human gets sick, it means... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Tay stood up, his silver fur bristling. Common room, emergency meeting, right now. One by one, the cubs filed out of the classroom. They moved in silence, their usual playful energy gone. Each of them was thinking the same thing. If their teacher, their protector, their guide could fall ill, then something was very, very wrong. And if the adults didn't see it, if the adults didn't understand how serious this was, then it was up to them. They had to save their teacher. They had to protect their pack, because that's what families do.